So, Robert, we're here to talk about your miraculous life.
Yeah, hi. Quite excited about that.
Well, I was very excited reading it, and my first thought was to wonder how it started, where you got the idea from.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, when I was going through yet another huge change and transformation in my life, as I was going through that, I suddenly realized that I have had a very colorful and rich life, that so many things happened. In that moment, it felt like several lifetimes, not just one. And then also, turning 50, I was worried in a way that I would start forgetting all these magical moments that I have experienced. And so I decided I would start writing them just down, just so that I don't forget, maybe for my children and so forth. But then somehow it grabbed me. The stories were coming alive, and it was just something that wanted to be written, and it became kind of a psychotherapy for myself. It became my own joy to remember and to bring all these memories to life. Several months later, there I was, very clear. I was actually writing a book. I was actually writing memoirs that I was intending to publish. Yeah.
It's a mysterious process still, because you have to select, from such a rich life, you have to select which events to include and which people to feature. You can't feature everybody. How did you go about choosing key events and scenes, as it were?
Yeah. So I was my kind of a main criteria that I was holding, maybe not even fully consciously, but somehow it was within me, as I realized later, that I wanted to make a collection of stories or scenes that I had a sense that they shaped me. Now, of course, speaking, from an absolute angle, every single thing that I experienced in my life shaped me into who I am right now. But somehow those that, in my memory, my experience, were playing a bit more of a vital role, either in a very unpleasant way or pleasant, or maybe there were crossroads. Somehow they were alive in me, as being a bit more important, and in a way wanting to be told. So the beginning, it took me a few months actually to make a selection, of these stories. And then along with that process, some stories I would just decide to actually not include. Or even later, as I was writing and the stories were written, quite a few stories after I have written them, I deleted them. It was kind of clear that their life, in a way, just by me writing them down, was complete. And other stories which seemed to me that they would be short, maybe half a page, suddenly turned into much longer ones. It was somehow really this sense that stories were writing themselves through me. Somehow it was a flow that I would write, a wave that I would ride, and it wasn't fully, or sometimes even very far from my conscious choice. I'm going to make it long, I'm going to make it short. Yeah, that wasn't present much, if at all.
So, as the stories were writing themselves, Robert, did any surprises come up for you?
Well, one that I mentioned, that I never knew how long a story would end up to be. Sometimes they would end up to be shorter, longer, so that was definitely one. Another surprise was that how that I found it was much easier to write about things that happened 20 or 30 years ago, because somehow it seemed that they were already deeply processed and grounded in me. Whereas things that happened 5, 6, 7 years ago, 4 years ago, somehow they were still processing within me. So it was really difficult for me to be honest, to be really authentic, to be fair. It was such an exploration, very surprising in a way.
So while you were writing the book, you were actually integrating those experiences.
Yes, yes, in very many ways, yeah.
So it was almost like a therapeutic process at times, perhaps.
It was. And an interesting thing happened when I was writing about some traumatic experiences from my childhood. The interesting thing was that how emotionally exhausted I felt after I completed a certain story. It was almost like re-experiencing it. Although I have done quite a lot of psychotherapy in my life and I went through all of this and stuff, but somehow there was, it was like another wave of energetic, emotional mist there that met me. So somehow it was really, I remember some specific stories that first I needed to really find strength and energy to start writing them. And then when I finally finished, I almost like crawled out of the room. I was so exhausted. So that was a big surprise as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, your book starts in early childhood, and some of the scenes that you relate are they're quite harrowing to read.
Yeah.
Would those have been the scenes that you're talking about now when you say about being emotionally exhausted?
Yes. And as the reader will notice, whenever I started to write a certain story, I will first find the crucial moment in that story. What was the crucial moment? And then I would take time to go into that moment with all I had to actually penetrate into that moment, settle in, and then write from that moment. So all the writing was very raw. It wasn't like me, a 50 years old man, writing about stories, about things that happened in my early childhood, with already having lots of understanding and compassion and stuff. But it was, in a way, me as this little child writing them. So that was, I really wanted to keep them as pristine and as raw and not explained and interpreted.
Yes, I think that's one of the things that makes the stories so vivid for me reading, is that they really, because you so inhabit that childhood state, and you don't bring in the understanding of the adult at the same time. And then there's a sort of pathos or depth that is brought when you then also reflect and say things like, of course, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have done this, and I would have felt this, and I would have asked for that, But in the moment you describe, as you say, with this very pure perspective of the day. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's one of the things that makes the book such a page turner, that you just can't wait to hear what happens next.
This was quite a surprise for me. I didn't imagine it would be so. But then I heard it from you, actually. You were the first one who told me that while you were editing. But then actually when you were reading it before you started to edit. But then from many people afterwards, I heard the same thing. That they would just keep reading into the night until 3 o'clock in the morning. They couldn't put it down. So that's also a very surprising thing. I didn't imagine it would be such a, as you say, page turner, but it seems to relate to many readers in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about its emotional nakedness as well that is very appealing and which we don't normally find in a even a book of autobiography that sets out to be the full story. Very rarely goes into that depth of feeling, I think. Yes. So, Robert, your book ranges over such a wide scope. You travel to Africa, you travel to India, to Australia. You describe different experiences with meditation and enlightenment trainings and lots of different spiritual practices. You talk about relationships, including long-term, specific relationships, about your children. It's like it's almost a breathtaking ride through a life, as you said. It's been a busy life, and you've written this autobiography at a relatively early age, actually, and the last chapters are concerned with your current situation now, with your fairly recent new partner and new child. And one wants to know what's going to happen next. Where's the next chapter coming from?
I wish I knew, of course. Well, no, I don't really wish I knew. It's okay. I like the unknown. But yeah, it was in a way, as I was writing, and as you say, going through all these experiences, like this Africa, running away from home at 17, and all these crazy things that happened before that and then after, and spirituality and yeah. Somehow I was also wondering why stop this memoir now? Why not keep writing for another 10 years or 20 years or whatever? So I don't have an answer. It just felt as if this was a huge chunk of my life, kind of a complete. Of course, it continues. Maybe it will continue for, apparently, I mean, the guy that I also described my meeting with, the palm reader in India, he said that I should live until I'm 80, so that's quite a bit more. But somehow it felt that this was, it was like a complete, it's almost like, how it felt? It felt as if my healing journey was complete. That's how it felt. As if the journey of healing myself from all the wounds and traumas and stuff, that in a way, all these wounds and scars, I had a sense, finally got healed. And finally I'm kind of a whole. And I can, start living in a way. So in a way, it feels a completion and a rebirth, or finally landing into this life and living it now.
Beautiful. Yes, that really does fit with the book. And didn't the palm reader say something about your life would begin at 50 or something like that?
That from 50 on I will be happy, and that was the moment when he told me that. I was 20 and I thought, oh my God, now 30 years of suffering. It wasn't really suffering, but definitely there is a change, there is a shift. Yeah.
It's like you've sailed through stormy waters and now come to a calmer place.
Exactly.
Though adventures will continue, there will be of a different nature now.
Yeah, who knows? Remains to be seen. Maybe in 20 years there will be part 2. Who knows? And I just want to mention, Graham, that I'm curious also about. I know that you are also writing your own memoirs and autobiography, and I'm curious if any of what you were editing was in any way maybe inspiring, or if it was also supporting your own inner process.
Yes, it was very much so. I mean, it was definitely the inspiration. Because I've been thinking about writing about my childhood for a long time, and I tried a couple of times, didn't progress very well. And when I saw how you had done it, it made a lot of sense to me, and I thought, yes, this is the way to do it, to go into the moment of the experience and then to review that and integrate it and put it into a journey as a separate thing. And while I was editing, I couldn't wait actually to get started on my writing, but of course I didn't start until our editing was complete, because I knew it would become quite compulsive.
Sure, yeah.
But then I found when I actually did start writing that I couldn't write in your style. I don't have the same recall for dialogue that you have, which is really amazing actually, how convincing the dialogue is that you record. I think you said you kept a lot of diaries. Is that how you did that?
Dialogues not so much, but other, like mostly inner journeys, inner experiences. Most of that was I was writing diaries in my late teenage years, and then practically most of my 20s, and also some of my 30s, and also dream diaries, because also, as you know, my dreams, not all of them, but some of them, are also included in the book. And also that was written down because I kept a dream diary. Yeah. I still do, actually.
Yes, that's really an amazing thing, to have those diaries and to have your dreams recorded. Yes, I was very envious of that. So my book's turning out very different because I don't have that recall, so there's a lot more analysis and thinking about it, and I've just accepted that my book is going to be a very different style. It's not going to be so. It's not going to be so easy to read, but it's mine, and yeah, you definitely inspired me to do that. In fact, I would go further. I would like the process of writing in the way that in the detail that you have done, of recapitulating a life, I just found so therapeutic and so valuable that I'm recommending it to everybody. You know, yeah, you should start writing now before you forget. So we didn't really know each other very well before we started collaborating on this project, on doing the editing. I'd met you as a trainer at an IIT, and that was it really. And suddenly we ended up working very closely together.
Yeah. So for me, as you know, I wasn't quite happy with. I wrote in my mother tongue, which is Slovene, mostly because of the childhood memories. Somehow translating them into English just didn't make much sense. So, but then with the translation into English, I wasn't quite happy, because I'm trying to be very precise and sensitive to the meaning, and sometimes very similar words, for me they convey a very different meaning. So basically I had lots of work then with the translation to bring it back into the meaning that I wanted for it to be there. But then it lost, because my English is not that good, it lost the flow. So I was very clear I wanted an editor. And then I started to search for an editor. And you, I had no idea. We met, yes, on this training, and then on another festival. I had no idea you were an editor. But when you then, on Facebook told me that you were also an editor, immediately there was such a huge yes in me, because my memory of you was that you seem to have and seem to have the same sensitivity to conveying precise meaning with words. I remember whenever I was talking to you, there was this sense that you were really attentive to what you were saying, that words were coming from your mouth as a conscious choice, with a razor, sharp precision. And when I learned you were an editor, I thought, oh, that's it. I don't need to search more. So that was such a clear yes in me, and I'm so much celebrating that I was listening to this clear, intuitive yes in me.
Mm. Yes, me too. It was a very different project for me because normally although I've edited several books. I started as a translator, and I normally translate from Scandinavian languages, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, and sometimes from German or French or Italian. But if somebody sends me a text in English, and there's problems with the words, or I can sense that it isn't really what they meant to say, or that it isn't really proper English or whatever, I'm a bit stuck. So I normally ask people, no, send it me in the original language. Then if I don't, then I can work out what you mean. If you send it me in English and I don't know what it means, where am I supposed to go with that? You know, we didn't have that option with my lack of Slovene, so it was a different kind of project. And still, you know, reading the text, I could see, okay, this doesn't ring true. You know, there's something not quite right here. And I wouldn't know what it was until I asked you. And then you would say, oh no, the translator really messed it up. You know, that wasn't what I meant at all. So it's like you knew already what it should say. I mean, your English is actually extremely good. It's very fluent. But it was a constant toing and froing, as I remember it. I was checking things with you, you know, sentence by sentence almost. Which is perfect for me. This is what I love to do. To have to really not just to present a finished text that all looks perfect, but to actually check with the person, what did you actually want to say in this sentence, you know, and get the exact nuances. Yes, that's very important for me. Yeah.
I really enjoyed in collaboration with you that quite quickly into the process, I realized that you seem to have been very familiar with the landscape that I was describing. That, you know, similar age, same gender, many similar experiences in life, many similar explorations and interests. So that was so nourishing in a way that I didn't have to make sure you know the difference between this and that and you will be attentive to it. But somehow there was this sense of talking to a brother, you know, about the very similar experiences we have had. And it was very quick and very easy for you to understand what on earth was I trying to write down. So that was very enjoyable.
It's often a mystery to me that people don't care so much about their words. They just want them put into English sometimes, and they don't really. And I want to reflect. I mean, it's like with nonviolent communication. You know, we want to reflect back and check, what did you hear me say? You know, and it's like that. So that we get clarity that we're actually saying the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the metaphor. In a way, it was really about clarifying communication between you and me. You know, so how can you fully understand what is it that I'm trying to get across, and vice versa. And when this connection, when this cycle is complete, then you can do your work. Then you can rephrase things and so forth. Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of people think that translation is about the words, you know, finding the dictionary equivalent for a word. And yeah, I've never been able to work in that way because the language is such a living thing. And yeah, you have to go to the source of what's behind the words in order to express them fluently, for sure. Yeah. So it was a long process, Robert. We worked for some months, didn't we? You spent a year writing, I think, and then we were some months editing. And then finally, you held the first copy of the complete book in your hands. It's a bit like delivering a baby, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was such an exciting moment. It is in a way similar, yes, to, to receiving a baby. It was such a similar moment and so exciting. I remember I was actually giving a workshop, and then during the lunch break, I was foolish enough, this DHL guy called me trying to deliver the book to me, and I told him where I was. So basically during the lunch break, within inside in the midst of the workshop, I received the book, and then like 10 minutes later I'm supposed to continue my workshop, and this was like melting my brain. It was so difficult. So actually what I did, I stopped and I shared with a group of participants. I shared with them for 5 minutes my excitement, showed them the book, so that I could calm my breathing again, and then I was able to continue with my workshop. Yeah.
And yeah, I wonder if it felt, how different it felt and looked then compared with seeing typescript on a computer screen.
Very, very different. That was such a unique experience. When I still remember when I started to browse through the book, and in this certain moment, it was just a book that I'm browsing through, and then in a certain moment I realized every single letter in this book I typed. It was just a profound awareness, that every single letter was typed by me. That was the first kind of a realization. The second one was, as I was browsing through the book, that's when it dawned on me how very intimate and personal and honest this book is. How I'm in a way laying my heart and soul completely flat on the table, and that now everybody in the world will be able to have that insight into my intimate self. And I remember this moment in which I thought, maybe I'll just stop it here. Maybe I'll just have 5 copies, for my kids, for my closest friends, and that's it. That's, we'll call it the day. And of course, I wouldn't do that, but it was tempting to a certain degree in these moments, yeah, because of this awareness how intimate and how it was almost like scary to be aware that this is now going to be read out of my control all over.
Yes, I can very much relate to that, having started writing myself, and already I've started thinking, okay, childhood was easy enough, because most of those people are either gone or don't care. And then as you start to get into adulthood, yeah, those people are still alive, and they might recognize themselves even if I change the names, and yeah, you do start to wonder how people are going to react and who can I show this to. Yeah. Anyway, you went ahead, you released it to the world, and you put it on no, not on Amazon, originally on another publishing site, and people started reading it immediately, and they started posting on your Facebook page, and probably to your face, and telling you in other ways what they thought.
Yeah.
How was that?
The first moment that I remember that was really, that was like a few weeks after I published the book, and I was co-facilitating a 1-week retreat in Belgium, and I had several books with me for participants should they want to buy them. And of course all the books were sold out during the first day, and then, or most of them were sold out during the first day, and then people would be, during lunch breaks, they would be reading my book. And I remember this moment in which I finished my lunch, I went to the lobby, and there were like 7 people sitting in various armchairs and reading my book, and it was just an overwhelming moment, oh my God, you know, like right now they are reading about my life, about my intimate world. I don't know which part they are reading right now. I don't know what they think right now as they're reading it, you know, what's their inner response. It just felt so vulnerable, as if there would be, you know, a bunch of people browsing through my, I don't know, naked photos, you know, and I just want to go into my room and hide. So that, I remember, it was such a strong moment. And then afterwards, when people would start, you know, when they would finish the book and they would start giving me feedback, either writing reviews on Amazon or on the Facebook, or many of them, maybe most of them, writing emails to me, or it was just such a incredible experience to again and again and again and again hear from people almost the same thing. One is what an enjoyable read it was for them. The second one, what a journey, what a personal journey it was for them reading about my life. That somehow they were going through their own childhoods. They were going through their own crossroads in their own lives. They were investigating their own choices and so forth. So in a way, it was a journey through their lives, walking with me through my journey, and very many questions I kept asking myself as I was moving through my life. So that really fulfilled my secret longing that this book would not be just, you know, an entertaining experience for the reader, but it would be a meaningful experience for a reader, a contributing experience for a reader, that something would actually shift or for them, and their lives would be in a way enriched because they would walk with me through the life, and you know, it's like hand in hand, asking themselves all these existential questions that I keep bothering myself with. So this was very, very, and it still is, very heartwarming.
So, Robert, you've written a book which is a hard act to follow, and yet I hear that there might be something else in the making at the moment.
Yes, indeed. Somehow, it's so interesting, as if this book that I've written encouraged me, but encouraged me on a very deep level, you know, encouraged a very essence, very core of me to want to bring even more of myself through writing. Indeed, I am right now in the process of starting a new book, which is, it's even kind of a vulnerable just to say it publicly like this, which is going to be revealing my attempt to reveal and to put into words and to ground my most existential experiences and understanding of what this miracle of life, what it is. I'm not sure whether it's going to be more of a poetry or more of a scientific, I don't know, I'm still a little bit searching for a language. And I'm having a sense that the language is already tangible for me, and it's somehow my language. And it will probably evolve and find its final version due the course of the writing. So in a way, I have a sense this book is going to be even more revealing, and somehow for my soul, for my essence, perhaps even more important. However, I don't think I would even think of writing that book have I not written my memoir. So somehow it seems things are evolving in an organic way. Yeah. So thank you very much, Graham, for this conversation and to reminding me of all these beautiful moments of writing and us working together.